Greetings. Today I would like to discuss with you the concept of the oneness of the Creator, which is a fundamental belief in many cultures. This doctrine emphasizes the belief in the unity of God's true essence, attributes, and actions, and asserts that there is no deity besides Him. It is considered the most important concept in life, and forms the basis of a person's morality and ethics. In this video we will explore the doctrine of the oneness of the Creator in more detail, looking at its origins, significance, and impact on people's lives. We will examine how this belief shapes a person's behavior and promotes a sense of responsibility towards oneself and others. So, let us delve into the topic of the oneness of the Creator and gain a deeper understanding of this fundamental concept in the world. Actually, let's ask first, what is the doctrine of the oneness of the Creator? The belief in the oneness of the Creator is a central tenet for most people, as it is an inherent truth in human nature. This doctrine holds that there is only one God, who created the universe and everything within it. It is based on the idea that God is infinite, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, and that all other beings, including humans, are created by God and are therefore dependent on Him. This belief is considered the most important concept in life, and as such, most people believe that there is only one God who is worthy of worship and devotion. A person who believes in monotheism is expected to be a good person by speaking well, having good morals, performing good deeds, avoiding bad deeds, constantly attaching themselves to the Creator, and drawing closer to Him in every action they take, which are considered good deeds. Bad deeds, such as committing acts of injustice or plundering people's rights, inevitably lead a person away from God. Overall, the doctrine of monotheism emphasizes the belief in the unity and oneness of God, and serves as a fundamental tenet for many people. There are several sections of this doctrine. We will discuss each one in detail, and you should know that this is very important, because the principles of believing in the unity of the Creator can influence the behavior of believers in several ways. They establish ethical values and principles that guide their behavior in daily life. These values and principles include: first, honesty and truthfulness. If a believer believes that God is the true overseer of everything they do, it is essential for them to be honest and trustworthy in all their dealings with others. Second, justice. Believing that God is the true and just one motivates believers to treat others with fairness and equity. Third, compassion and empathy. Believing that God is the merciful one pushes believers to help others and show compassion towards them. Fourth, moderation. Believing that God is the wise and great one encourages believers to be moderate in all aspects of their lives, avoiding extremism and excess. Fifth, patience and tolerance. If a believer believes that everything that happens in life is by the will of God, it is necessary for them to accept negative events with patience and tolerance, and to seek peaceful solutions to problems. In general, believing in the unity of the Creator encourages believers to cooperate and unite with others, develop virtuous ethics, and avoid negative and harmful behaviors. Let's talk now about the first two things in monotheism: the oneness of God's essence and the oneness of God's attributes. The oneness of God's essence refers to the belief that God is one in His existence and essence, and that there is no partner or equivalent to Him. This means that God is unique and absolute, and cannot be divided or compartmentalized in any way, and that no entity or thing can share in His existence or essence. Most people believe that the one God is unique and incomparable, and that there is no partner in creation or governance. He is the creator and sustainer of the entire universe, and is unique and absolute, and cannot be divided or compartmentalized in any way. The belief in the oneness of God's essence is essential to many cultures, and it reflects the belief in the unity of the one God who manages the entire universe. In fact, this is believed to be true, because if there were more than one God, the cosmic system could potentially be disrupted and corrupted. Things may conflict with each other, the planets may collide, and a fight could potentially rage between the gods, causing the destruction of all humanity, because every god will come one day and want something different from what the other god wants. This belief is also fundamental in worship, as it is considered a form of polytheism to worship anything other than God, which is forbidden. This is the concept of the unification of the essence. As for the concept of the unification of attributes, it is the belief that all of the attributes ascribed to God belong exclusively to Him, and that there is no partner or equivalent to Him in these attributes. Most people believe that God is the one and only, the merciful, the compassionate, the holy, the mighty, the wise, the all-knowing, and many other divine attributes, and that these attributes belong exclusively to Him and are not shared by anything or anyone else. The oneness of God's attributes means that God is unique in all of His divine attributes, that there is nothing like Him, and that there is no partner to Him in these attributes. This reflects the belief in the unity of God in all aspects, whether in His essence or His attributes. Most people believe that. The belief in the unity of God's attributes helps them to better understand God, and to achieve harmony and agreement among people in the belief in the unity of the one God. So, what is the difference between the oneness of God's essence and the oneness of God's attributes? The concept of the oneness of God's essence is the belief that God is one in His existence, and nothing is like Him or comparable to Him. It is the belief that God has no partner or equal. This means that God is the first and the last, and He is not influenced by anything nor does He need anything. As for the concept of the oneness of God's attributes, it is the belief that all the attributes ascribed to God belong exclusively to Him, and that there is no partner or equal to Him in these attributes. Most people believe that God is the one and only, who possesses divine attributes such as mercy, justice, wisdom, greatness, power, and many others. It is important to note that the oneness of God's essence and the oneness of God's attributes are interrelated and interconnected. The oneness of God's essence expresses the unity of God's existence, while the oneness of God's attributes expresses the unity of God's attributes and characteristics. Those were the first two aspects of monotheism. Let us now talk about the third aspect, which is oneness of God in worship. The oneness of worship is the belief in the unity of God in worship, seeking help, supplication, and invoking Him alone. It means that believers must direct all forms of worship, obedience, seeking help, supplication, and invoking to God alone, without associating anything or anyone else with Him in these acts of worship. The oneness of worship includes the belief that God is the only deity worthy of worship, veneration, respect, and submission, and that there is no other God but Him. The oneness of worship is considered one of the most important aspects of monotheism, as it represents the true and sincere worship of God, which is the ultimate goal of human existence. Believing in this principle is the key to happiness in this life and the hereafter, and it is permissible for God to provide us with a means and a mediator to reach Him in order to test our faith, just as He commanded Satan to prostrate to Adam to test his obedience and disobedience. Therefore, people can resort to righteous intermediaries to approach God, just as a sick person seeks treatment from a doctor or a son seeks blessings from his parents. Humans can also turn to those whom God has sent to us, as they are closer to God and have reached the highest levels. However, this should be done within the framework of faith, that God is the ultimate ruler, responsible and capable of acting independently. Others are only able to act as intermediaries, and their power is derived from God. The intermediaries have no power to bring good or evil to people. They only work with the permission of Allah, and do not have the ability to bring about any change in the current situation. Thus, we have finished explaining the third aspect. So let us come to the fourth aspect, which is oneness of God in Lordship. Oneness of God in Lordship is the belief that God is the Lord, the ruler, and the sole owner of the universe, and that He manages and controls everything in the world independently, and He may give His guardians the power to do miracles in order to establish truth and nullify falsehood. This confirms God's unity, greatness, and authority, and that the universe cannot stand on its own and can only last by the will and power of God. And as we said before, if there were more than one God, the cosmic system could potentially be disrupted and corrupted. Things may conflict with each other, the planets may collide, and a fight could potentially rage between the gods, causing the destruction of all humanity. So it must be one God. From this fourth aspect, let us come to the fifth aspect, which is monotheism in creation. It is the belief that God is the one who created everything in the universe, and that there is no other independently creator except him. God is the independent creator, and he may grant the power to perform miracles to a person. All of this is due to God's wisdom and power. But the power of a person undoubtedly comes through mediation. As for God's power, it is independent. In conclusion, monotheism is a fundamental belief system that emphasizes the oneness of God in all aspects of creation and worship. It is a unifying concept that transcends cultural and linguistic barriers, bringing people together in the recognition of a higher power that is the ultimate source of all that exists. By embracing the five aspects of monotheism, individuals can deepen their spiritual connection with God and live a life that is guided by principles of unity, justice, and compassion. May we all strive to embody these principles in our daily lives, and may our devotion to God bring us closer to a world of peace, harmony, and understanding. Now that you understand monotheism, it is important to know that not everyone who claims to believe in monotheism truly adheres to it. Rather, a person's actions reflect their beliefs. While someone may have inherited their religion from their parents, their actions may contradict the beliefs they were taught. Since monotheism is an intellectual belief, a person's actions are guided by their thoughts. If someone's actions contradict the doctrine of monotheism, then they are not a believer. If they claim to be a believer, then they may either be unaware of the contradiction or deliberately deviant, due to a psychological illness. So let me ask you, how can understanding monotheism impact my daily life? What is the importance of monotheism in promoting unity and peaceful coexistence among peoples? How can a misunderstanding of monotheism lead to religious deviation and extremism?